I'm ready at 6:30.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Dover Select Board meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, January 5th. Happy New Year, everyone. Okay, first off, one thing. We have disabled the chat function on the Zoom. If you want to get my attention, raise your hand using the raise hand feature, which if you pop up the participants, there's a bar where you can raise your hand or wave or something. We have realized that it does not record the Zoom meeting does not record the chats. So if we're going to be having a meeting, everything needs to be in the public forum and should be no private chatting, and so we've just shut off all the chatting right now. Anybody have any questions about that? All right. I'd also like to make an agenda. Excuse me? Somebody have? I'd like to make an agenda addition. Under economic development, the trails and rec applications, we're going to ask for any questions or clarifications from anybody who might have applied for that, and then go into executive session maybe tonight to discuss the applicants, depending on time. Depends on how the evening goes. Otherwise, we will schedule a separate executive session to discuss the applicants. And anything about any of that by anybody? Jeanette.
I just wanted to add, I neglected to put, to approve the December 15th minutes on the agenda. So if I could add that along with the 11th and the 18th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, public comments before we get going.
This is Becky Arbella. I just want to let everyone know that Wilmington Works and Shares Housing are again in the process of partnering for the new 2021 Vermont Everyone Eats program. So you'll be all hearing more about that.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything else? Okay. Moving to our first item, highway. We are going to consider replacing a damaged snowplow on a highway truck. Tell us about this, Travis.
So I'd like to start by asking the board's permission to
You can't.
snowstorm.
We missed something there, Travis. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I'd like to start by asking the board's permission to replace a snowplow that was damaged during the December 17th snowstorm we got. It was completely destroyed beyond repair. I've been in contact with VLCT on this. We are going to get some insurance money back from this, possibly up to $4,500. Not quite sure with the depreciation. However, it is a 20 to 25-year-old snowplow that we're talking about here.
Does the board have any questions of Travis about the snowplow before we start talking about replacing it? No. Travis, did this happen like just as normal wear and tear in the course of that large storm we had, or was it some kind of accident?
It was an accident. Driver was making a right-hand turn, and with those one-way plows, it's scooping everything when you turn to the right. And at the point of the plow hit a dirt bank and bent the plow frame pretty bad on the plow. No damage to the truck. So we were fortunate about that. And that was on the four-wheel drive truck. So that didn't get a new snowplow in 2019 when we purchased that truck. So we, It's
Okay.
it's a loss of a snowplow, yes. We have spares, and that's what's currently being used.
Okay.
Oh, Vicky,
Scott?
yeah, I'll just weigh in really quickly. Travis did reach out to me about this. Seems like he did some good research, and I know like the case he's gonna make. I don't want to speak for him. That's why I didn't weigh in yet. But he's definitely done some research on this and done some work. And I think replacing it was gonna have to happen at some point anyway. And yeah, support his move for giving the angle one or whatever he wants to go for.
Any other questions
That's
about
it.
the actual need to replace? Travis, tell us about what you'd like to replace it with.
Okay, I don't, did you guys receive the pricing?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to go ahead and if we could and get the Viking Power Angle snowplow for $7,500. I've been in touch with Marco. He said there's plenty of money in the capital equipment to do this. That plow is very versatile to us. That truck has been set up already with the ability to have a power angle plow on it. And I would make that plow its primary plow and keep this backup as a backup as needed. So.
Any board questions about the request by Travis? Public comments? Oh, sorry, Scott. Scott, you can jump in.
Sorry, I just didn't. How much do you think? I forgot to ask you this, Travis. Sorry, how much do you think? You said up to 4,500. Honestly, do you think we're gonna get anywhere near that? Or I mean, you said it's 25 years old.
Yeah, I've been in constant contact with the VLCT on this, and the insurance lady said that she couldn't give me an exact number, but she said they were going to go off of the $5,600 estimate with depreciation.
Okay, cool.
So she figured,
25 years.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right, cool.
Okay. Any public comments? Sorry, my speaker is acting bad. Then I would entertain a motion from the board.
I make a
Sarah?
motion.
I make a motion that we authorize Travis to purchase the plow as described for $7,500. Does that cover everything, Travis? Is that just the plow, or is it shipping and everything?
I would go pick it up. It's in stock, so I would just go get it. Yep.
Okay.
Sarah, could you consider modifying your motion to say
Of course.
the money coming from capital equipment fund?
I make a motion that we authorize Travis to spend $7,500 for the plow as described, with the funds coming from capital equipment.
Second.
Dan seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Joe says
Goes
aye.
in too.
Yes, we know, Joe.
Thank
Excellent.
you. I really appreciate
Oh.
it.
Thank you. Hopefully we don't have any storms quite that heavy, quite that
Yes.
fast in a
Yes,
while. That was a big one.
that was a
You
big
guys
one.
did a really good job. Nice job, Travis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
I've never seen snow come down quite that fast.
It was pretty fast.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it with the highway department. Thank you. Unfinished business. We're going to revisit Mr. Sedlack's concerns regarding zoning issues. So from what I understand, Mr. Sedlack, you have essentially two different concerns. One being the Airbnb operating next to your property, and the other is a zoning, zoning concerns with our zoning office. Am I correct?
The zoning, specifically with the zoning office, the warning that was issued on or about July 25th of 2020.
Okay, so I am open to where do you want to start with this, but I want to keep the two items separate.
Okay, good. Wherever you like.
So let's talk about your issues that you gave to the board, and thank you in the PowerPoint about your Airbnb neighbor.
You're welcome.
Does the board all have an opportunity to look at the documents that Mr. Sedlack sent to us?
Yes.
Joe?
Hello, Joe.
Joe? Are you there, Joe?
Yes, I did. I went through it and also did a little research on it. I'm all set. You can go
Okay.
over it.
I think it's pretty obvious by what you presented, what your concerns are. It appears that parking and access and entering your property and leaving your property are concerning to you, and I can see by your photographs that I see why. Have you reached out to the property owners concerning this? Because they're the ones who are really violating your free movement to and from your home.
Yes, we have conversed many times.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
can you-
could I ask Richard if he could just either turn up his mic or move closer to it because I'm having trouble hearing you?
I'm sorry, I'm a little hoarse today.
Oh, no
Yes,
worries. Just
Yes, I have spoken with the family that owns the house many times, yes.
And can you tell us about those conversations? Because that wasn't included in here, so I just was curious.
Basically, the attitude they take is we don't think that Whispering Brook Way should have ever been developed. You're crossing over my property. My guests do their best effort to park. And most recently, he constructed a second driveway and parking lot on the side of his house. The problem is it's about a 25-foot driveway over a 10-foot drop. And now he's just got cars stuck all over his yard every week and weekend. So it was a moot point. He does not properly plow or sand for his renters at all. There's 3 more police reports since I wrote that PowerPoint. And most recently this Sunday, we waited. Dana had to wait in Stuger Road for 46 minutes to get into the driveway because 5 cars were stuck. And a van with other people who were friends of the house camped out on Stuger Road all weekend.
Have you also, this is just some background that they look like they have a local property manager host. Have you talked to the property management company?
No, it's not my place to do that.
Okay.
I shouldn't have to be discussing this with anybody at all. I should be able to get to and from my home, and emergency vehicles should be able to enter and access my home at any time, and they can't.
I don't think anyone disputes that. I think we're just trying to get as much background as possible. So the questions aren't being asked, Vicki, correct me if I'm wrong, but the questions aren't being asked in an accusatory way. It's more of an information gather.
No, I don't take it that way at all.
Okay, all right.
The police reports all speak for themselves. I think we're up to 8 of them in a 2-year period.
Scott?
Yeah, I'm sorry if this is in there. I don't see it, but was that driveway, the Whispering Brook thing, was that made in 2007 as well?
It was made, I believe, in 2005 when Jeff Healy first bought the property at VO000. He was given a right-of-way across that property, and Whispering Brook Way was named and put on the map. Prior to that, it was the driveway for 25 Stuger Road when the Lews owned it. And when the deed was written for that land and for my land, it's written in the deed a 50-foot right of way, 50 foot wide. And it's far from 50 foot.
Randy, could you weigh in on your call, the repeated calls that Mr. Sedlack is referring to?
So I have to admit that I haven't looked at them all. Becky told me about the one that happened, that she got reported to this weekend. And about Mr. Sedlack had reported that there was an accident or something down in his property. I think there's a little bit more in detail on that, which Becky had told me about. I'm not really sure if that even had happened, so I'll end that there. So what I do know about some of the reports are some of them of, parking on the road. They can't get down through there. He can't, again, that's not a town road. It's a private road. We have no enforcement there. We're told, we've told them that. I did talk with, Richard, I think yesterday, about the issue of them coming down and turning around in his yard.
That's why we're all listening.
Told them that, I totally get it and I understand it. Gave him a couple of suggestions, but nothing is 100%, that's going to stop it. Or, if it does, it could cause, other issues. I think it's just one of those things, especially with him coming down into his yard, because it is just, going down and he's at the dead end and people are trying to find a particular place. We all know GPSs are not that accurate. They're going to get you in the general vicinity. I can admit, for one, and I'm sure anybody else, that, you go to a location and you miss your turn, so you end up turning around somewhere to get back to where you're going to go. Unfortunately, he lives at a dead end, and so they end up in his driveway to turn around and to get back. He does have some no trespass signs up, and Becky and I she discussed that, and she admitted that, yeah, they are fairly big, and, you should be able to see them. But again, you're going down a road and it's a dead end. I didn't tell him this yesterday, but as I'm sitting here, listening to it, and I don't know about the zoning issues or anything like that, but it seems like if there's a a dispute, say between neighbors, and there's nothing criminal, well, there's a civil suit that one can file against another, and let a civil judge, try to decide the issue. That's all I can really say at this point, about it all. But, we are aware of it. The officers have told them, their opinions and what can be done and what cannot be done. And, there's really not a lot that we can do there.
He's muted.
Dan, is that you?
Oh, no, Rich was muted. He was trying to speak.
Okay.
Randy, there's a camera on the northwest corner of the house with a video recording of those two cars. But unfortunately, I have no way to give it to Becky. So you have a suggestion, I can get that video to you.
Becky is working tomorrow. I believe you could probably reach out to her. Again, her report isn't done, so I don't know a lot. That's why I didn't want to go any further with that. So
terrific.
Yep.
So I was looking at their Airbnb listing today, and I know that I have rented a couple of Airbnbs, and they usually have a maximum amount of cars allowed at a property, or no parking at the property, or there is none of that there. This house is listed as a 15-person maximum property, which means they could have 15 cars there.
Correct.
So it seems like there's some things that could be done to mitigate the problem in terms of the sheer volume of cars. And I am familiar with their property management company. They are local. Yeah, I think that we should try to have a conversation to get these problems mitigated in terms of if there's guidelines on the Airbnb listing that says there's parking for 4 in the winter and maybe 6 in the summer or whatever it might be, that information should be also on the listing. And other properties do have that, a lot of them. Tabby?
Yes, the gallonage for that property is set in contract for 15 sleeping spaces. So they are not going beyond what their required contract is with North Branch.
That's not what I was saying. I'm saying for parking.
Oh, no, I'm just saying is for number of cars are parking, but they are not overfilling their gallonage requirement. They are allowed 15 sleeping spaces.
Does anybody else have any other comments about this? So, Mr. Sedlack, I know that the Vermont State Chamber of Commerce, this is a #1 priority for them in this legislative session to try to figure out how to better regulate on a statewide basis the Airbnb and other short-term rental property situation. They recognize there's all kinds of issues right now, and I'm very disappointed that this is happening in Dover and it's impeding your lifestyle and safety. So I see why you're very upset and concerned, and you should be able to access and leave your home whenever you want, assuming that the road is plowed and the weather is okay, that you can leave. Other cars parking in so that you cannot do that is a problem, and it's a safety issue too. So I don't know that the town is in a position that we can even send a letter to the owners of the property. We would have to research that with our attorney and see if that's something that we can do to ask them to better control the amount of vehicles that are coming and parking at the property. If they had a maximum amount of cars, would that be a part of the solution?
When Sandy Lou owned the home and Sandy used to rent the home, I do all my own plowing. I plow my way in and out. I've been doing it for 14 years. Sandy and I had an agreement that she would let me know how many cars to make room for. I'd take care of it for her. Her common decency was overwhelming, and I had no problem with it. And I have no problem with people making a living. I don't know anybody that works 9 to 5 in today's world and makes a living. Everybody's got to do something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even Randy works weekends. So what we have to do here, what's not being done here, and it puzzles me so because I was on the receiving end of it at one time, is enforce the zoning laws for businesses and residential districts. Now, Dave Churchio enforced share homes, internet rentals as lodges or bed and breakfasts. And we were all required to follow that statute. The house is on Maple Hill Loop, myself, the house is up on a Meek Road. We all had to go through the process. We all went before the DRB or we didn't do it. This zoning administration office now has just pushed that aside. There's no continuity.
May I comment?
Yes, you may.
The statute does not apply to a single residence being rented in whole. A bed and breakfast, which you applied for and were granted permission for, is an owner-occupied structure that has multiple bedrooms that are rented out to transients or other. An entire building, an entire home, single-family home, is able to be rented in its entirety, and that is within the Dover zoning statute at this time. So if the person who owned that maintained a room, lived in the house, and rented out up to 6 or more bedrooms, that would fall under the B&B. That is not the case here. And I have consulted with our town attorney to verify that it does not fall under that same structure.
That is correct. It cannot because it has too many beds. 10 or more now becomes a lodge.
Mhm. And it is being rented not as individual bedrooms in a lodging style, but as an entire house.
Yeah.
And that is the key point.
Correct. And in fact, our zoning bylaws do not mention the terms rental home or single family home. So since there's no bylaw to define it, it is now supposed to go to the Dover Review Board. I'm sorry, Developmental Review Board. That's the process in our bylaws. Any change of use needs to go to the DRB.
It is a single family home being rented. We are not
Correct.
obliged to find out, is it one family? Are there family and friends? It is being rented as a unit. And in review with our town attorney, that falls under our current regulation. We can look to change, amend, or adjust that regulation, but at this time, they are within the structure of the bylaw.
Is the town attorney on the meeting tonight?
No.
No.
Is there a document on this? This meeting?
I have discussed it with him. I don't have a formal letter. We can obtain that if you'd like, but this has been discussed with him, and this specific house has been discussed.
So Tabby, I think that, can you provide that information to Mr. Sedlack?
I'd be happy to. I will call our attorney and ask him to write up something for that.
So, but in the short term, so, and assuming that it would take a zoning bylaw change, that is not an easy thing to do, Mr. Sedlack. It takes a long time. It's not going to help relieve your situation for this winter. So I would like to try to find another solution that might help you have a better situation and enjoy leaving and coming back home in any way we can assist you with the tools that we can have, that we have. And I think I don't understand why the property owners are, one, that right of way is a right of way, and that's a part of your property. You have the right of way to go over that road whenever you want to use it. I'm disappointed if they don't feel that that should be a legitimate part of the situation in the neighborhood.
They live in Boston. They could really care less. They're selling the home for anywhere from $400 to $1,000 a night. Why do they care? Anything that the police department has to call them about is the cost of doing business. This is a business.
I understand that. I understand that
It's in a
completely.
residential district. It's not a landlord that's renting out a house to a family. It's transient lodging.
Mm-hmm. And I understand.
And you have the power with the bylaws to make some sort of control out of the 109 homes in residential districts in Dover and West Dover. That's up to you.
Well, except that according to Tabby, the town attorney is not giving her that direction. So I think the next thing is we need to get the letter from the town attorney that lays out why he doesn't agree with what you're saying. And then we can have a conversation about those 2 points of view. But very honestly, I'm going to lean in the direction of the town attorney because this is what he does for us.
How did Dave Cherokee enforce it so differently?
I we can't speak to what Dave did or didn't do. We aren't able to have a conversation with him or learn
And
what
that
his
it,
point of view was.
he was 2 zoning administrators removed from where we are today. So, and the world of Airbnb was a completely different animal when Dave left that position. So I think that Sarah's correct. We need to get the information from the town attorney and see what can happen. But in the meantime, I think that there should be a way that this can be discussed with the property owners to advise them that that's an emergency issue. You can't, if they needed a fire truck or an ambulance, you would have a lot of trouble getting up your driveway. It's a public safety issue, and I completely understand that. And you should also be able to come and go from your house freely.
And Richard,
Linda, did you have a question? Sorry,
Sorry.
Linda had her hand up. Linda had her hand up. Linda?
she's finding the unmute.
The ever fight of the mute. I just wanted to comment, just going back to what Vicky said, at Airbnb, you look on their website and Airbnb, Verbo, and just about probably 97% of Dover is on that. And the majority of towns throughout the state are having issues. They don't know how to deal with these, how to value them. So like Vicky said, that is going to be addressed. And I believe next week is my VALA meeting, which is Vermont Association of Listers and Assessors. And that will most likely be coming up at that meeting as far as what we'll be working on with the legislature for this coming year. So I will even bring it up as far as an issue that's within our town and see what kind of feedback, but I can imagine how frustrating it can be, Richard. And I'm sitting here thinking, call a wrecker and have them towed. But that's sort of that's not probably the appropriate way to handle it. But safety's safety. So,
Sarah?
I just wanted to suggest that when Tabby speaks to the town attorney about this and gets a statement of direction, perhaps also asking him what the appropriate response to the parking issue is, because that's the real immediate response. Does Richard have, or does the town have the power to have vehicles towed? Do we have does the town attorney writing a letter to the landowners have any impact? And get his legal feedback on that. And perhaps we have another avenue that's going to work a lot faster than rewriting the bylaw that will get some relief for this particular, for Richard and for other people in his same situation.
Correct.
There's one more point about the house unrelated to this. He's had signs up with the name of the house as it's advertised on the internet and with the address, and 2 signs about parking. And I've asked several times if there are permits for these signs, as they are visible from Stuger Road. And I've had no response.
Those signs, as a sign name, it's a small sign, and that is allowed via our sign ordinance. The parking and direction signs are also allowed because they are on property, direction, park here, do not park here, parallel parking only, or whatever, are part of the sign ordinance, and they are allowed.
Can you tell me what part of the sign ordinance says that you can have the sign with a name of your advertised house as it is business on the internet? Because the only signs I see allowed are for trespassing.
I will pull up that, but if you have a sign for your house called, let's say, Bouncing Bear, and that's your house name, and it's a small sign with the name of your house that is under a certain size, you are allowed to have that.
Okay, so these are what size?
So, Tabby, maybe you could send Mr. Sedlack a copy of the sign ordinance so he
I
can.
have
Delighted
it.
to.
I have it
Oh, you
here.
have it.
I think
Okay.
it's page 9, section 135, Richard.
Yep. Page 9, no. Page 9
Page
is
9 of
part
the
of,
sign ordinance, not the
part of definition.
bylaw. No, you're looking at the bylaw. The sign ordinance is a separate document.
So from July 10th. So page 9 says that we can have signs not requiring a permit. Directional signs
Right.
for the ski area, residential or commercial complex not visible from state or town roads. This is visible from the road. And it was put there for that reason, so people can find this house. Otherwise, they pull into someone else's driveway. Official highway signs, small signs not greater than 4 square feet without advertising and displayed for direction, instruction, or convenience of the public, including but not limited to identifying restrooms, freight entrances, posted areas, signs, or the like. It says nothing here about the name of your house.
If you consider down to section I,
Mm-hmm.
type of sign, house sign, up to 8 square feet,
Mm-hmm.
on-premises directional sign, such as a parking sign, for instance, 1.5 square feet,
Mm-hmm.
road sign, street sign, sale sign, etc.
But they cannot be visible from state or town roads.
Okay, I think that,
I don't agree, but
I think that we need to talk about this. This is the sign the biggest issue to you? I mean, if there's no sign there, they're going to go down your driveway even more often. And so I'm a little bit confused about, I would think that the sign would be something that you would want so that they would try to go in the right place. I mean,
Sure, you can have a big
am I
sign that
wrong?
says 25 Stuger Road, but now you want to put the name of the business that he's selling on the internet? That's okay.
But if it was his last name, 25 Stugaro, and that's what he was selling, he could certainly do that. You know, there's many properties in town that have the owner's name and their address on their sign at the end of their driveway.
Sure, and that is allowed, but his last name is not the ranch at Pine Tree Corners.
Richard, there are people that name their property and name their home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, there's people that have signs like, Unicorn Alley and, they have all kinds of, I get directions from people all the time, and there are sign names that have nothing to do with the customer or the owner's, the property name.
This has everything to do with the business he's running on the internet.
But I'm saying just having a sign that has a name that's not the customer, the resident's name is not in and of itself an advertising sign.
And I agree with you there, but this is an advertising sign for his business on the internet.
All right. I don't want to go down this anymore. Let's look at the sign ordinance. I believe there are plenty of other these types of signs all over town. And so it's going to be hard to single out this particular one. And honestly, I see that the parking issue is a bigger issue right now than getting rid of that sign. And so I think we need to focus on what could make your enjoyment of your property safer and better for you. And that would be dealing with the parking issue right away, if we can.
Okay. So we'll revisit that when I get an attorney letter from the town attorney.
An opinion, yes.
Yeah.
And we will look into whether we can send something to the property owners.
Terrific.
Okay. Did you want to spend a few minutes on your second issue? Just
Sure.
Okay. Because we are way over time on this already. And so if we could try to go through that, and I'm not sure what all we're going to resolve tonight with that, but we will hear your concern.
Okay, let's do it.
You want me to address this
Well,
first, or?
Why don't,
it's Mr. Sedlack's complaint, so I would like him to speak.
Mhm.
Okay, so this document, I've read the commentary that was emailed to everybody on the board, and although it's a lengthy commentary, there's no pretense to it. The VPIC has a handbook for zoning administrators to follow, and on, I believe it's page 20, the procedure for following up on a possible violation is not followed here. And even in this commentary, it doesn't say anything about why this was even began. It began with a phone call from the owners of 21 Stuger Road, second homeowners to Fishman's, called the zoning office and said there's somebody building a motorcycle and snowmobile repair shop on the property behind us. That's a lie. So there was no phone call from the zoning administrator, no letter, no request to visit the property, just a public document pushed to me. And I was told that I had to go notify all these state authorities to come look at my land to see if I did anything wrong. This land is an abandoned construction site. Jeff ran out of money, Jeff Healy, in about 2007. He came down to see me and talk to me about it. And we've talked for 14 years about me buying the land. I've walked every inch of that land over the past 14 years, did all my due diligence. And when I purchased the land in the spring, I started walking the land and cleaning up all the garbage. I then, as per section 315 of the zoning laws allow me to, did some general landscaping to prepare for gardening, period. That's all that was done. And that's on the northwest corner of the land. It's in an area smaller than an acre. And even the DEC enforcement officer that was sent to my home with a complaint lodged by the zoning administrator that I was interrupting a Vermont waterway, looked around and said, there's nothing wrong here. I shouldn't even be here. I said, why are you here? Because the zoning administrator filed a complaint. That complaint gets lodged on the DEC website to read and for the public to see for 30 days. Then that complaint, along with all the other states in the nation, creates a streamline of information with the EPA. So that is now with the EPA. In my work, I hold licenses and certificates to teach people on topics concerning the EPA. And my question in the letter that you all saw, how is the zoning administrator going to rectify this? That's what I'm waiting for an answer on. He filed a false complaint with the DEC.
Tabby.
Okay. According to our zoning bylaws, any type of development, which includes land development, needs to have a permit filed. Any permits that were extant on this land expired 10 years prior to this. I sent a notice of warning that there is no permit filed as far as development goes, and there was a question that was brought to mind by neighbors stating that there was a stream that was impacted, let's say, by the bulldozers doing the clearing land and all of the work. Before I even wrote the letter of warning, I contacted the state permit specialist and we looked at the property via overviews, via Google, via everything else. And it was also the state permit specialist that it looked like there was a stream or water flow area there. The land is completely in the wildlife zone and also partly in the floodway. So all of these things require approval from the various state agencies to allow development. It can be simply a letter, it can be a phone call, it can be something requiring this. When I spoke with Mr. Sedlack, I explained what needed to be done and how communication needed to be established to then say, you can do this development. The stream is not impacted. I got no additional communication that any of these agencies were contacted. Now, apparently they were, but I have no email, no phone call, nothing from any of these various agencies or surveyors stating that there is no violation or there is no impact. We have development or land development in a flood zone. Anything, the entire property is completely in the wildlife area. So before any development or clearing can go on there, a letter from the wildlife agent needs to happen. That's Forrest Hammond. He would need to take a look at this and either say, yes, you are having no adverse impact in the wildlife or the wildlife travel area. We have these overlays that need to be simply looked at. This notice is simply a warning. My ability to get the Riverine people down to look at, I am required to go to the DEC website and file a request. It's the only way that I can get them to come down to review their piece of this puzzle. If everything is in line, then I can remove the warning, which I'm more than happy to do. I simply have no information. As part of the notice of warning, the statement is the third paragraph, any decision may be appealed. You can appeal the letter by directing a notice of appeal to the secretary and bring it before the DRB. There was no request to appeal this information until Mr. Sedlack chose to bring this forward to the select board rather than to the DRB, which is actually the oversight for all zoning. Right now, due to COVID, due to the difficulty of getting people in, I extended the amount of time for Mr. Sedlack to be able to have this reviewed. So this is still in a warning state as opposed to a formal violation.
I have one question for the zoning administrator.
Yes.
This waterway in question, is it on the Vermont State Waterways map?
It is visible through the ANR system, but it is not a formal large waterway. But because it is visible through ANR, the state permit specialist required that we take a look at by the DEC and by the Riverine people. So it was at the recommendation of the state permit specialist that this be reviewed.
Have you looked at the documents on the property? Because when I was in your office that day, you said you did not look at any Jeff Healy's documents.
I have the entire file in front of me.
Did you see the waterways, the stormwater study? That is a temporary construction culvert. That's what it was.
Then
GPS coordinates in the stormwater study show it. And construction permit for that expired. It's not a Vermont waterway. And that was confirmed with the DEC enforcement officer.
then I should
There's
have.
no waterway.
Then I could have or should have
Excuse me.
gotten a report.
Is there anything in writing on any of this information?
Yes,
I'm
Tabby
hearing-
has it.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
Could you repeat that?
Yes,
You said
Tabby
you
has
have
it.
it, Tabby.
I don't have anything from DEC.
You have you have the notice of intent there for the temporary construction culvert that your pictures from outer space showed as a waterway, and it's not a Vermont waterway. And the DEC officer was very angry that he had to come here during COVID for that.
I'm not sure that this is the best forum to mitigate this information. It seems like there's some lapse of information and transfer of information. I'm not sure that our select board meeting is a place for this really to go on.
I agree.
Yes, Tabby.
Okay. Had a permit been filed for this development, all of this would have been mitigated. There was never a permit filed for this.
The permit exemptions in section 315, item 3, excavation or fill incidental and accessory to use of land that is lawful under these bylaws. I'm using the land for nothing. I made it safe for me to walk on with my disability. That's it. And I'm going to put a garden there. Maybe if I have enough money to buy some more topsoil. That's it. There's no building. There's no construction. There's no electricity going in. I barely have enough money to survive.
Okay, I think that this needs to be mitigated in a different situation. Sarah, do you think you have any ability to try to deal with trying to get the information back and forth between Tabby and Mr. Sedlack?
Sure.
It seems like there's gaps of information. Can you, with your expertise, or is it not appropriate for you to do that? Could you weigh in on that?
I'm
It just
happy
seems
to
like there's
either be a conduit or be just CC'd on everything so I can be a repository. So that if there's any communication between Mr. Sedlack and the zoning office, or the zoning office and the town attorney, or any of the state agencies that might be triggered here, if you want to just CC me on everything, I'll create an independent file for that and just have that all at my disposal.
Thank you. Dan?
Mr. Sedlack is a friend of mine for years and a constituent, and he came to me when he had this problem. I've been on his properties many times. I went down and I took a look at it. And if you looked at his property and you thought there was development, then there's something wrong with you. And I think what should have been done is looking. Not
Something
aerial,
wrong.
just
Well, Dan, excuse me. That's exactly what I didn't want to have happen here. And I'm disappointed that it just did. And so, Sarah, thank you for your assistance with this. And Mr. Sedlack, we are going to figure out what's going on here. Obviously, there's a lot of information being said that somebody said something else. And so we're gonna try to get some real concrete information and figure out what's really going on here. So I'm gonna put this to bed tonight, right now.
If I could just one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
If Tabby and or Mr. Sedlack would like to email me any information, particularly any documentation you've gotten from any state agencies or attorneys, any quote unquote authoritative material, that would be very helpful for me to have.
I have nothing more than what you've already seen.
Okay.
My 90-minute discussion with the DEC, I did not audio record at his request.
Okay, and none of those people commented back to you in writing?
Everything was through a phone call. I have phone records, but that's it.
Yep.
I would like a
that's
copy
fine.
of-
I was just trying to be thorough if I.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I would like a copy of the complaint that was sent to the DEC.
That was simply a web form on their site. That
They should be able to
basically
provide you with a copy of it. I
their
think, Tabby, if
attention.
you ask.
Let's see if I can-
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to move on to any budget review or town meeting updates. I know the legislature, if anybody read, what was going on page 2 of the Deerfield Valley News last week, John Gannon talked at length about changes to laws in and around town meeting and voting. I think it's a very active topic right now. Hopefully we'll have more information about what we can and cannot do for town meeting. And do we have, Jeanette, do we have any budget review items that we need to deal with right now?
I don't believe so. I can't remember if we did get a budget numbers from the Eastover Fire.
Oh, excellent.
I think that was all that we were waiting on. So,
Okay.
yes, that's it so far.
Very good. So we're still in a little bit of a holding pattern to figure out what our, make a decision about what we're going to do with town meeting and voting and all of those pieces. So I think we'll just keep that on the agenda as a regular. Okay.
Yep. Yes.
New business. We're going to speak to the Deerfield River Watershed Association for the designation of the Deerfield River Wild and Scenic. And who's here to represent them?
Hello, I'm Chris Curtis. Can
Hi,
you hear me?
Chris. Yes, we can.
Great.
So the board was given some information about Deerfield Wild and Scenic. Maybe you could give us a 30-second overview for all those other people who don't know what we're talking about.
Okay. Well, the Deerfield River Watershed Association is a nonprofit group that works on protecting, restoring, and stewarding the Deerfield River, and we're launching a new initiative to determine whether certain segments of the Deerfield River and its tributaries could be designated as a national wild and scenic river. So I've been going around meeting with select boards all over the watershed in Vermont and Massachusetts. We feel like this river is worthy of this sort of designation, and it has significant benefits for the communities in the watershed. And to date, I've met with 14 communities across the watershed, select boards and mayors. And to date, all of them have voted to support the idea of pursuing the designation. So I'd like to ask for your support. I'm happy to go into a little bit more detail on it, but I know you've been meeting a long time tonight, so maybe I'll see if there's questions at this point.
I do have a question. Can you tell us what towns in Vermont have already signed in on to this?
Yes, I can. Wilmington, Stratton, Guilford, and Waingham.
Do other board members have questions? Sarah?
And I apologize if this was covered. I feel like I read this a while ago, and so I'm maybe not as sharp as I should be. By designating this, does this impact at all how zoning or construction in the vicinity of the watershed or the rivers or streams is? Are we going to have to revise our bylaw? Are we going to have another overlay on our zoning?
Well, that's a really good question. The designation itself does not affect local properties or zoning in any way. However, most of these wild and scenic rivers have a management plan that's adopted with the full participation of the communities and the consent of the communities. And sometimes they do agree between the communities themselves to adopt some kind of river protection zoning. It's not required, it's not mandatory, but sometimes communities decide that's a good idea to do it. I personally worked on the designation of the Westfield River in Massachusetts as a wild and scenic river. And, those communities have river protection zoning again, but it's not required, just to get a sense of that.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Okay, hold on, Kevin. Other questions so no questions from the board? So Kevin?
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with the Deerfield River. I've done a lot of personal surveying of its tributaries with Trout Unlimited in the last year. I think Chris must be referring to the East Branch and the main branch, the scenic parts of the Deerfield River. The North Branch that we have here in Westover is scenic in parts, but it's actually a top priority for the state to Department of Natural Resources and their remediation plans, particularly the mess around Mount Snow and Snow Lake and the thermal loading and the sedimentation. So, and it would have no classification. You're endorsing a classification of it as wild and scenic doesn't impact the tactical basin plan that the state has for it. And right now, I believe it's a B1 stream. If it ever went to an A1 stream, then there are serious bylaws that would keep development like 500 yards away from it or something like that.
So I guess this is an important point to address. What we're looking to do right now is to get authorization simply for a study to look more closely at which segments of the Deerfield River and its tributaries might qualify for wild and scenic designation. So we'd be looking at all of the segments, but not all of them will qualify. There's certain criteria that have to be met to do that. So we'd look at the North Branch of the Deerfield in Dover as one of those segments. It's not necessarily one of the ones that would ultimately end up being designated. It has to meet certain criteria, and I don't want to get into the details, but one of them is that it's supposed to have outstandingly remarkable scenic qualities, which sounds like a vague characterization, but we have ways of establishing whether that gets met or not. So it's a two-part process. We do a study. The study takes about 2 to 3 years, and then we come back to the communities again and ask whether or not they want to pursue the actual designation. And you'd have a second opportunity then to sort of vote and act on that at that time.
Mr. Sedlack?
Yes, Chris, I'm happy you mentioned the North Branch of the Deerfield River. My property borders 1,500 feet of it, and I would love to meet with you, social distancing required, to take a long hike along all of it and talk about the possibilities there. I have great interest in that river.
Great. That sounds good.
That's DWRA@deerfieldriver.org.
That's right.
Okay. I'll shoot you out an email. Look for me.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Do we have any other comments from public?
I have a question,
Joe.
Vicki.
Yes, sir.
So with all this designation that we're looking at and everything like that and signing on to, would there be a time in the future that there'll be some monetary requirement as in the way of finances to be in this designation if we comes to it? Because it sounds like to me, just listening to the discussion quickly, is our section of the river is not going to fall into that, or at least the larger portion of it. So that's my only concern looking down the future if we sign on to this. So if that could be answered, that would be great.
Yeah, I have a two-part answer to that question. First is that there's no cost to your community of any kind to participate in this designation process. The second part is that there could potentially be some financial benefit to the community, and that is that oftentimes these rivers get designated as wild and scenic, what they're called partnership rivers. And those rivers, including the Westfield River that I mentioned earlier in Massachusetts, get annual funding through the National Park Service. It runs around $220,000 per year for the Westfield. And those can be used for projects to benefit the river, to clean up the river, to restore the river, for stewardship of the river. And the money gets determined, how it gets spent gets determined by a committee of communities representatives in the watershed. So potentially there's some positive financial impacts from this designation, and that's one of the reasons, frankly, that we're pursuing it.
Mr. Curtis, do you need to have every town that has a branch of the Deerfield to sign on for this to move the project forward?
We don't technically need that. I'm trying to reach out to every single community because I just think it's an important thing to do, and to try to make that connection and really just talk to people about it. It's not something that we want to impose on anybody that's not interested in it. But we think there's, really some substantial benefits of doing this.
Any other comments from anybody? So there's a letter of support for this that if the board wants to make a motion, the chair would sign this and we would fill it out to support the Deerfield River Wild and Scenic.
I'll make the motion that we sign it.
Second.
Authorize Vicky to sign it for the board.
Authorize Vicky to sign it for the board.
And seconded. Anything else? Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, that's unanimous. So I assume, I have a copy of the letter in front of me. I assume it's something I can you autofill this on it? I'm sure you probably can. Or I can can I handwrite this in and sign it and give it to Jeanette? Mr. Curtis?
Oh, yes.
You want it fully typed out, or can we write our name in here?
You can do it that way too, yes, absolutely. And thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this and for your support.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jeanette, I will have that filled out and email it to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you. Moving on to the Grateful Hearts program. Becky, are you still out there?
So I'm just, go ahead, Jeanette.
No, I was just looking to see if you were still there, and there you are.
I am. So unfortunately, my camera is broke on my computer. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. What I'm coming to the board for is the possibility of permission to use, right now I'm thinking the town hall. This is in early stages, but because of the COVID pandemic, it's really pushed the need into the forefront. And I wish that I actually had this up and running the past 2 weeks with all the stores and restaurants and inns closing that called me over the last 2 weeks to give away food. We could have made a ton of frozen food. So the Grateful Hearts program is a nonprofit. I'm not sure we would definitely become a branch of the Grateful Heart or something else. I would not ask the town for any funds. The only thing I would be asking is use of a commercial kitchen. I will be looking either the town hall or possibility of one of the schools. And I know Dover only has one school, but I'm looking across the valley because this program would be put in place to feed the valley. There would also be no cost to any recipient of the food. What we would do is check with restaurants and stores. A lot of their food they can't serve or sell because of the looks, but it's still edible and very well, still nutritious. So we would cook that into nutritious meals, package it into vacuum sealed bags and freeze it. I will be fundraising for a freezer, and hopefully the commercial kitchens will have the equipment we need other than a vacuum sealer. And then we would also operate this all by volunteers in the valley.
Anybody on the board have any questions of Becky and the program? Sarah?
So just to be clear, at this moment, what you're asking from the town is permission to use the town hall and the kitchen there.
Correct.
Okay.
And just so you all know, I did take the Serve Safe Management course so that any of the food prepped there would be under the Serve Safe bylaws.
Other questions from board members? Becky, will you be responsible for keeping it clean?
Yes, we will, absolutely.
And the people,
Go ahead.
the people who are your volunteers, there's some industrial sized kitchen utensils and small appliances. Just make sure safety is super important because there's, you know, a meat slicer and all kinds of different things, and I would hate to have any accidents.
Yep, I will be fully training everyone on everything. I've run the store, so I've had meat slices. I've had the rotary stand mixer.
Okay.
I definitely, this is just something, I see a lot of food going to waste, and I know there's a lot of need in our valley.
And so this would be 1 day a week, you're thinking?
I would like to see it be 1 day a week to start. It may even only be 1 day a month. It'll
Okay.
depend on how much participation I can get. I didn't really want to talk it up until I had the permission to use the town hall.
And this would this be a finite amount of time we're talking about, or would this be a year in? I mean, in your vision, would this be something that would be ongoing?
In my vision, this would be something ongoing, and what I really would hope to see after, I say after COVID, but when we get a handle on COVID, I would really like to see the kids in the area helping at some spot, helping to either package the meal or label the meal, obviously something that they can't get hurt on. But I believe it would be really good to get the younger generation to buy into this program and help with it. And it could possibly work with the students for their 40 hours of community service time that they need to graduate from some of the area schools.
Anybody have any comments?
I think it's a great program.
Thank you, Sarah.
Jeanette?
I was just curious, Becky, do you know if it's going to be obviously during the day, during the week, or?
So most of the time it would be in the evening, late afternoon, early evening, only because I really can't take time out of my position to do this. And I'm sure a lot of my volunteers that I'm hoping to rein in also work, and the kids go to school. So I really envision this being like a late afternoon, early evening.
Okay. Could I
Jeanette,
just
go.
ask another question? I'm sorry. So would it, so would we block that off? I mean, do you envision it being, you know, Tuesday afternoons, you know, or so that we can book it at the town hall so we know it's being reserved for you, that sort of thing?
Yep, definitely. That would be great. It would definitely be somewhere between Monday and Thursday. Obviously, whatever day is best with the town. I don't want to give up my weekends if I don't have to, just because it's really crazy with the pandemic going on out there. But I could definitely work around the town schedule. And obviously, if we picked a Tuesday and you had an event come up on a Tuesday at that time, we can be pretty flexible to just change it to the day before or after.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Anything else? Do we want to make a motion to allow so it may not be Grateful Hearts. What should we call this program, Becky?
Gee, I guess I don't have an answer for that, Vicki.
So no, just so that we have so we'll call it
Title.
Becky's Grateful Hearts
Food for
program.
the Valley, or
Well,
Yeah, just Hearts of the Valley is fine.
Grateful Hearts organization or like parts.
So we
or
Something,
can't-
just something.
so until
Associates?
we
Becky,
find out.
Whoa, whoa,
whether-
whoa, 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 whoa. Too many
Sorry,
people
sorry.
speaking. So just give us a name that we can make a motion for, Becky.
Feeding the Valley.
Feeding the Valley, very good. Would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to allow Feeding the Valley use of the Dover Town Hall kitchens weekly.
Once weekly,
Once weekly.
midweek.
So that way.
Because hopefully people will be using the town hall again at some point. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
I heard Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks, Becky.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Next,
Becky.
all right, thank you. Next, we have Duncan Cable. Is there somebody here from Duncan Cable?
Yes, hello.
Hi.
My name
Talk
is
to
Ryan
us.
Todd, production manager from Duncan Cable for DCTV8.
Mhm.
Our request would be to air the select board meetings on Channel 8 at designated times throughout our programming within the Valley. Those times would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 3 p.m. For the duration of the meeting. Tuesdays and Thursdays would be 6 p.m., rotating within the Wilmington meetings as well.
And are you sending a cameraman to us, or what are you thinking of doing?
So currently, we'd like to re-air the Zoom meetings, as obviously nothing is in person at this time, but yes, in the future we would like to. As Jeanette and I kind of spoke back and forth via email, we were kind of maybe going to leave that off until later, until we got into more of a in-person meeting and figure that plan out.
Eric, aren't we already streaming our, weren't you going to set that up to stream our, to actually put our Zoom meetings out on the website?
So that was actually going to be my question to you, Ryan, is as long as, you know, I don't see from our standpoint, obviously I'm not the board, but any issue with doing that, as long as it's not exclusive to Duncan Cable or DCTV8.
Yeah, no.
Okay, because we are in the process, I believe, starting with this meeting, of uploading these to YouTube so that they're accessible. They'll be linked from the Dover website as well as discoverdover.com from here on out. So as long as there's not like exclusivity that you guys are the only ones who can run them, then that's, you know, we wouldn't have any issue with that. And actually, it's probably a good thing because the concern, you know, as far as the community member that reached out to me, was just that they didn't think that the meetings were transparent. So this is just another avenue for us to say, well, you know, we have them up on our YouTube channel. They're linked from our website. You can also see them airing locally on DCTV8.
Yeah, thank you for your support. We appreciate that. Yeah, and I think that's kind of our motive here is to make them a little more transparent and for people to see. And there would be no exclusivity. You know, it'd be, you guys own the rights to everything. We would just be re-airing.
And how long would you re-air that same meeting until another meeting came along, or how would that all work?
Yeah, so it would rotate within our schedule until we received a new meeting, the upload of a new meeting, and then we would take that, dump the old one, and you know, you guys could archive it however you want on your website for people to go back and retro view, but we will only be airing current meetings.
Are you doing Wilmington currently?
Yes.
So it's out there on Duncan Cable?
Yep. So those the Wilmington meetings are airing at 12 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and 9 p.m. Tuesday, Thursday.
Are there any questions? And if we decide that this doesn't work for us, because only a select amount of our voters and community members can actually access Duncan Cable. So it's not, the YouTube option is more open to everybody. So if there's a reason that we want to cancel, we want to reserve the right to cancel this situation at any time.
Yeah, we can draft up an agreement and send it over to you guys if that works.
So, okay, yeah.
Just,
all right.
just giving
we
kind of
want our attorney to look at it, obviously, too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any other input?
Crickets.
No, this is the food being brought into Sarah was just too funny. So
My son is serving me.
Lucky you.
Yes, and he made it too.
He must be
Ooh.
thinking he's going to be on TV.
He must have been
So
good on your
why don't you send us over what you are proposing,
Okay.
and we will have our attorney look at it and see if we want to proceed.
Perfect.
Okay?
So he can send that to
Yes.
me. If you
Send it to
Jeanette?
Jeanette.
that
Send
to
it
me?
to Jeanette.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
absolutely. Sorry about that. I didn't clarify that.
No, that's
Good.
Not a
fine.
problem. We've been
Okay.
emailing back and forth, so I have her email and file, and we're good to go.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Economic development is up.
Okay, so quick updates. The RFP for the Town of Dover website has closed. We have received 55 proposals for the new website. So Shannon, myself, and our good friend Jeanette will be looking through these proposals and be providing you guys with our recommendations, for the top 3 to 5, hopefully for the January 19th meeting. And hopefully we can make a decision on that and move forward. If anybody has any interest in seeing any of those, I can show you where to access them, board-wise anyway, and we can go from there. The next thing is to schedule my 6-month review. Is there a time or date that works well for the board as a whole to get that done?
Midweek during the day would work for me. I don't know about the rest of the board. This normally is between half an hour and, an hour at the very most.
I'm very organized. It'll be very quick.
I asked Eric to pull some information together so we would have that. Sarah.
Are Tuesdays typically a very busy day for you, Vicki?
The busiest.
Okay, because I was going to say we could do it right before a board meeting, but that's probably not a good idea.
Absolutely the worst. I mean, if we had to do it, I could do it. But it would not be something I would want to do. And like next week is our Martin Luther King edition, so it would be very crazy. And any other day of the week would be better.
I'm good pretty much anytime except this Friday.
Okay.
How about the rest of the board? Times that don't work, do work?
Afternoon is always better for me.
Afternoon is better. Joe?
Later afternoon, like after 4.
4? Okay.
I
4
said
on
later in the afternoon. 4 after, or like 8:30.
8:30 at night?
Because I'm teaching. No, 8:30 in the morning as I'm teaching skiing. It's hard to. Obviously, it's going to be a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, it's hard for Dan to make that time. So could we do 4 o'clock?
That's fine with me. Whatever day you want to do.
4 o'clock. Monday?
Or we can do like maybe Thursday the 14th. Does that work for you guys? At 4?
That should work for me. Thursday the 14th at 4? Here you know. Okay, Joe said sure, we're in. So.
Perfect. Thank you guys. I promise to be organized.
1:14 at 4, and will you set up the Zoom meeting, Eric, or we just use this? What are we gonna do? We're gonna have it be an executive session.
Right. Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, it's a review.
Eric can.
We
can set it up, right?
I have a personal account, but Jeanette has the town account. So either way.
I do, but we can set you up.
Okay. Perfect.
It's gonna set you up.
Jeanette can make you the administrator, right?
Yes, you can be the host.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, moving right along. The Bytown Housing Committee would like to issue a very special thank you to our friends at People's United Bank for their $500 donation to our committee. There are no plans on how that money will be spent as of yet, but we are very thankful for it. So Again, thank you to our friends at People's United Bank. And then the last piece, we're going to go ahead and move to an executive session, but just as an update, we did receive a number of applications for our Trails and Rec Committee, which we're hoping to get formed soon. So we will go ahead and schedule a special executive session to kind of review. Could we do that the same day, maybe right after that meeting?
Actually, that's not a bad idea.
Just get them both
Can
done.
everybody go, say, till 5:30 or 5:45 that night?
I'm fine.
If we piggyback them?
I'm good.
Okay. So
Okay,
we'll
so-
plan to do both that afternoon. Thank you, Eric. Thank you,
Perfect.
Shannon. Okay, moving on to a consent agenda. We need to approve the minutes of December 11th. I think we had some absentees. Let me get the minutes in front of me so that I can see if we need to separate these.
Yeah, I can tell you if you
Okay, please.
don't have to look it up. So the 11th, it was Dan, Sarah, and Vicky. On the 15th,
We'll do them
everyone
separately.
but Dan. Yeah, they should be separate, I think.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of December 11th.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. And we have 2 abstentions. Yes.
Okay.
Jeanette,
Okay.
okay?
And then the 18th?
The 15th.
The 15th, everyone except Dan was there.
Because the agenda says 18.
Well, we added the 15th at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
Beginning of the meeting.
Missed
Okay.
that, sorry.
I forgot.
So we have the 15th.
Motion to approve the minutes of the 15th.
I'll second. Any changes, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Scott, you were there.
Oh, okay, well, there was one of them I wasn't there. I thought that was the one I wasn't there. Okay, aye.
And then Dan abstained in that one.
Dan abstained.
And then Sarah, the 18th.
Motion to approve the minutes of December 18th.
Second.
Second that.
Any changes? Was everybody there, Jeanette?
Joe was not there.
Okay.
So
So any, what, Dan?
I second it.
Okay, I already had.
Yeah.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay.
No abstains.
Gotcha.
All right. Now we need to approve the warrants from December 26th for $141,641.03.
I move that we approve the warrants of December 26th for $141,641.03.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Unanimous. FYI, our town tax sale is January 13th at 9:30 a.m. That the joint select board meeting next Tuesday night at 6 p.m. to go over the Bytown marketing plan. The planning commission vacancy, we had 1 letter of interest.
Yeah.
I think I've heard there's going to be some more. There's not at least another person.
Jeanette first.
No, I just wanted to let you know I received 1 letter of interest. So do we want to keep advertising? Are we going to, or can people just let those folks know who were interested that they should get their letter in sooner than later?
Yes. That
Okay.
was exactly my comment.
Okay.
So sooner, because we want to fill out that board. So hopefully by the next meeting, if they haven't done it, could you put that on the next meeting agenda, Jeanette, so that we can discuss that, so we can fill out the planning commission?
I think they just didn't get a deadline, so.
Yes, so
Sweet.
before the meeting of the
Be there.
19th, so by the 18th.
Perfect. It'll be there.
Okay, and also we have the completion of the Dover Fire Department co-location plan on cell tower at 285 Dover Hill Road is scheduled. Jeanette.
I don't know. I don't know. This was a total news to me, so Tabby knows more about it than I do.
Okay, Tabby.
Okay. The last piece relating to the removal of the old-fashioned tower was getting the rest of the fire department's equipment and co-location over. The construction company is now going to be doing a visit and scheduling that so that the completion of the project to get everything up on the big monopole and have that old-fashioned cell tower removed is now finally progressing. It was on hold for quite some time.
Well, that is good news. Do we have any liaison reports? Hearing none. We are going to go into an executive session for legal matters with the River Valley School Board representative. And I see that Rick Thorpe is on and Laura is on. Who else is going to be in from the River Valley Board? Do you guys know?
Richard's on the phone. He's on.
Richard's on the phone.
Oh, he's the phone. Okay. So we are going to say good night to everybody else and thank you. And we are going into executive session and we will stop recording. And Jeanette, you're doing the recording, right?
Yes. Yep.
You're going to stop once we get everybody else out of here. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, so
We've got, who's left? That's it. Besides Jeanette.
okay, so
Sarah, will you take some quick notes? Go in, go out notes. Thank you.